I never thought quitting my job would lead to my boss's empire crumbling. But when 3 and 12 clients worth millions walked out with me, his smug laugh turned into panic. Here's how it happened. If you've ever been undervalued at work, you'll want to see how this story ends. Hit subscribe and like now to follow Penelope's journey from burnout to building her own empire. The sky was still dark when my alarm jolted me awake at 4:30 a.m. I stared at the ceiling for exactly 30 seconds, my daily allowance of self-pity, before forcing myself out of bed. My name is Penelope Frost, and for the past 3 years, I'd been a senior account manager at Blackwood Financial Services, one of New York's fastest-growing wealth management firms. Fast-growing because of people like me, who treated their own well-being as collateral damage in the pursuit of corporate success. My morning routine had become a military operation. Shower in 7 minutes, coffee while applying makeup, breakfast consumed while reviewing client reports. By 5:15 a.m., I was already answering emails on my phone while walking to the subway station. The early March air cut through my blazer, but I barely noticed anymore. Physical discomfort had become background noise. I arrived at our gleaming midtown office building by 6 a.m., a full 2 hours before official business hours. The security guard, Maurice, greeted me with the same concerned look he'd been giving me for months. "Another early morning, Ms. Frost? You beat even the cleaning crew most days." I managed a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "The market never sleeps, Maurice. Neither can I." "Maybe the market should take a nap now and then," he said, sliding my access card back to me. "Wouldn't hurt you to do the same." If only he knew. The last time I'd slept more than 5 hours was... I couldn't remember. The 37th floor was eerily quiet as I settled at my desk. I had approximately 90 minutes of uninterrupted work time before my boss, Richard Hammond, would arrive. Richard had built Blackwood from the ground up over 15 years, transforming it from a boutique firm to an industry powerhouse. His success formula was simple: work his team to exhaustion while dangling the carrot of partnership. I opened my laptop and faced the day's battle plan. 47 unread emails since I'd checked at midnight, 3 major client presentations to finalize, and a quarterly review for our biggest client, Sterling Enterprises. I'd been managing their $87 million portfolio personally, along with 311 other client accounts ranging from $1 million to $50 million. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. "Need Sterling presentation on my desk by 8. Adding points to agenda. Be ready to cover new tax strategies." I checked the time. 6:17 a.m. The presentation I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. perfecting now needed additional sections in less than 2 hours. I swallowed the familiar knot of anxiety and got to work. By 7:30 a.m., the office began filling with my colleagues, all wearing the same expression of functional exhaustion. Lauren from the tax team dropped a coffee on my desk without a word, our silent solidarity ritual. At 31, she was the youngest team lead in the firm's history, her meteoric rise fueled by the same brutal work ethic that was slowly draining my soul. "Tax strategy section," I said, sliding a folder toward her. "Mind checking my numbers before Richard sees it?" Lauren skimmed the pages. "Looks solid, but he's on a tear today. Just took Thomas apart in the conference room about the Westfield account." Thomas was our newest senior manager, only 6 months into the job. "What happened?" Client called Richard directly with a question. "Richard thinks Thomas isn't being proactive enough." She made air quotes with her fingers. "Never mind that Thomas works until midnight every day." The conversation was interrupted by Richard's booming voice from his corner office. "Penelope, where's that Sterling presentation?" I grabbed the newly printed deck and my tablet. "Wish me luck." Richard Hammond embodied every stereotype of a Wall Street success story. 55, perpetually tanned, expensively dressed, with the confident demeanor of someone who believed his net worth validated his existence. His office was a shrine to his achievements: awards, photos with celebrities and politicians, and the obligatory model sailing yacht. "Morning, Richard. I've added the tax strategy section you requested." I placed the presentation on his desk. He flipped through it without looking up. "The Anderson meeting yesterday. How did we leave it?" They're increasing their investment by another $2 million. I've already started the paperwork. Good. And the Patel family? Signed yesterday. $7 million initial portfolio. He nodded, still scanning the Sterling presentation. This chart on page 12. It's not impactful enough. Redo it before the meeting. And I need you to take over the Cambridge pitch tomorrow. Harrison's wife had a baby or something. I had already worked 78 hours that week, and it was only Thursday. The Cambridge pitch would require an all-nighter to prepare. Richard, I've already got the quarterly reviews for Donovan and Martinez tomorrow. I'm not sure I can... Not sure you can what? He finally looked up, his expression hardening. This is what we do, Penelope. We deliver whatever it takes. That's why our clients trust us with their millions. That's why you made $320,000 last year. Hi? He said the number like it justified everything. The missed family events, the deteriorating health, the non-existent personal life. And maybe once, it had seemed worth it. Now I wasn't so sure. I'll handle Cambridge, I conceded. Good. Now Sterling is expecting us to blow them away today. Their CFO mentioned Criterion Capital has been courting them. We can't lose this account. The rest of the morning was a blur of meetings, calls, and putting out fires. Lunch was a protein bar eaten while updating client reports. By the time the Sterling meeting rolled around at 2 p.m., I'd been working for 8 hours straight without a real break. The meeting went perfectly. Of course it did. I had prepared for every possible question, anticipated every concern. The Sterling executives left impressed, with Richard taking most of the credit while I quietly gathered my materials. That's how it's done, Richard said after they left, slapping me on the back. They're not going anywhere. Make sure the follow-up report is on my desk tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is Friday, I said, a rare moment of pushback. The report isn't due until Monday. Richard's smile didn't waver. Excellence doesn't take weekends, Penelope. You know that. This is what partnership material looks like. He glanced at his watch. I've got a dinner with the Goldmans. Hold down the fort. And just like that, he was gone, leaving me with another night of work ahead. I returned to my desk to find 3 more urgent emails and 2 voicemails from anxious clients. The sky outside had already darkened. Lauren stopped by my desk at 7 p.m., coat on. I'm heading out. Want to grab a quick drink? I gestured at my screen. Cambridge pitch. Rain check? She frowned. Wasn't that Harrison's? His wife had a baby. Right. Lauren hesitated. Pen, when was the last time you took a day off? I tried to remember. Labor Day weekend, I think? That was 6 months ago. And you still answered emails. I'm fine, I insisted, the lie so familiar it almost felt true. You're not fine. None of us are. She lowered her voice. Thomas is on antidepressants now. Rebecca had a panic attack in the bathroom yesterday. And you look like you haven't slept in a year. I didn't respond. What could I say? She was right. Just think about whether it's worth it, she said, squeezing my shoulder before leaving. The office emptied gradually until I was alone again, the quiet hum of the HVAC system my only companion. I worked mechanically, the words on my screen blurring as fatigue set in. At 11 p.m., I finally headed home, knowing I'd be back in a few hours. My apartment, a spacious 1-bedroom in Chelsea that I rarely saw in daylight, welcomed me with silent emptiness. I kicked off my heels, opened the refrigerator out of habit, then closed it again. I wasn't hungry. I was something beyond tired, a bone-deep exhaustion that sleep couldn't touch. I noticed the blinking light on my landline, a voicemail from my mother. Penelope, honey, it's Mom. Just checking in since I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. Your father and I are worried. We missed you at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and now Emma's baby shower. Sweetheart, is this job really worth losing your family over? Please call me back. I sat on my couch in the dark, my mother's words echoing in my head. Emma was my younger sister, expecting her first child. I had missed her baby shower last weekend because of an emergency client situation. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to really feel the weight of what my life had become. I was making more money than I could spend, but I had no time to enjoy it. I had an impressive title, but hadn't spoken to my best friend in over a month. I was successful by every external measure, yet profoundly unhappy. Something had to change. The Cambridge pitch went as well as could be expected after working on 3 hours of sleep. I returned to the office by 2 p.m. to find an email from Richard with a calendar invite for 4:30 p.m. Performance discussion. My stomach dropped. Performance discussions weren't scheduled for Friday afternoons unless something was wrong. Had I made a mistake? Was a client unhappy? I spent the next 2 hours reviewing my recent work, trying to identify any possible issues. By the time I knocked on Richard's office door, my anxiety had reached fever pitch. "Come in, Penelope." Richard's tone was unreadable. "Close the door." I sat across from him, back straight, face composed, the professional mask I'd perfected. "I'll get right to it," he said. "The partners and I have been discussing the future of the firm. As you know, we've been growing rapidly. The senior leadership team needs to evolve." Here it comes, I thought. After 3 years of sacrifice, 80-hour weeks, and flawless performance, they were finally offering me partnership. The brass ring I'd been chasing since day one. "We're bringing in Julian Mercer from Goldman to head up the high net worth division. He'll be starting as a junior partner next month." The words hit me like a physical blow. The high net worth division was my territory. I'd built it from the ground up, quadrupling its assets under management. "I don't understand," I said carefully. "That's my division." Richard leaned back in his chair. "You'll report to Julian. It's a great opportunity to learn from someone with his pedigree." "His pedigree?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "Richard, I increased our client base by 38% last year. I personally brought in $215 million in new assets." "What exactly does Julian bring that I don't have?" Richard's expression hardened slightly. "Julian has connections we need. Harvard Business School, family ties to old money, a certain presence that inspires confidence in our highest-tier clients." Translation: Julian was a man with the right background and the right gender. "So, I've been working 80-hour weeks for 3 years to build something that you're handing to an outsider?" The words came out before I could censor them. Richard's eyebrows shot up. "I think you're overreacting. This is business, not personal. Julian's appointment doesn't diminish your contributions. Doesn't it? You dangled partnership in front of me for years. Excellence doesn't take weekends, Penelope. This is what partnership material looks like, Penelope. Was that all just motivation to extract more work from me?" "Now you're being emotional," Richard said dismissively. "This is exactly why—" "Why what?" I challenged, a strange calm settling over me. "Why I'm not partnership material. Go ahead, say it." Richard sighed, like a parent dealing with a difficult child. "Look, you're an excellent account manager, one of our best. But partner is about more than just the numbers. It's about relationships, presence, fitting a certain profile that our clients expect. And I don't fit that profile." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." We stared at each other across the desk. 3 years of suppressed frustration, exhaustion, and resentment crystallized into perfect clarity in that moment. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I quit. Richard blinked, then laughed. Actually laughed. "Come on, Penelope, don't be dramatic. Take the weekend to cool off and we'll talk on Monday." I stood up. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. I quit. Effective immediately." His smile faded. "You can't just walk away. What about your clients? Your responsibilities? Your career? My clients deserve someone who isn't running on fumes. My responsibility to myself matters too. And my career will be just fine without Blackwood Financial Services." Richard's face darkened. "If you walk out that door, there's no coming back. You're making a huge mistake." I thought about my sister's baby shower, my parents' voicemail, my empty apartment, my health. "No," I said, with more confidence than I'd felt in years. "I'm finally fixing one." I walked out of his office, past the curious eyes of my colleagues, straight to my desk. I opened my drawer and pulled out the emergency exit plan I'd created months ago, but never thought I'd use. A list of steps to take if I ever found the courage to leave. I sent an email to HR requesting my final paycheck be sent to my address, along with any applicable bonuses. I drafted a brief resignation letter, printed it, signed it, and left it with Richard's assistant. I collected my few personal items in a small box. Lauren caught me as I was shutting down my computer. "Pen? What's happening?" "I quit," I said, the words still feeling surreal. Her eyes widened. "Seriously? What happened?" "They're bringing in some guy from Goldman to run my division, as partner." Wow, that's messed up." She looked around nervously. "What are you going to do?" I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "First, I'm going to sleep for about 3 days. Then I'm going to figure out the rest." "Richard will try to poach your clients," she warned. "Probably, but right now, I don't care." I hugged her quickly. "I'll call you." As I walked toward the elevator, I heard Richard's voice behind me. "Penelope, this is unprofessional. We need to discuss transition." I kept walking. "Your clients won't follow you," he called after me. "You're nothing without this firm." The elevator doors closed on his reddening face, and I descended 37 floors feeling both terrified and exhilarated. I had just walked away from a $320,000 salary with nothing lined up. By all logical measures, I had just committed career suicide. So why did it feel like the first sane decision I'd made in years? I slept for 14 hours straight. When I finally woke up, sunlight was streaming through my bedroom windows, a sight so unfamiliar on a Saturday that it took me a moment to remember where I was. The events of the previous day came flooding back, and with them, a momentary panic. What had I done? But beneath the fear was something else, relief. Pure, unadulterated relief. I made coffee and actually sat down to drink it. I called my mother and had a real conversation for the first time in months. I took a walk in the park. Simple things that had become luxuries in my Blackwood life. By Monday morning, reality began to set in. My phone had been buzzing with texts from colleagues, some supportive, others fishing for gossip. I hadn't responded to any of them. I needed space to think. I was sitting at my kitchen table, drafting a plan for my next steps, when my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Penelope Frost speaking. "Penelope, it's Martin Sterling." I nearly dropped the phone. Martin Sterling was the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, Blackwood's biggest client. "Mr. Sterling, hello. How are you?" "Confused, to be honest. I just got off the phone with Richard Hammond, who informed me that you've left Blackwood and that someone named Julian will be handling our account moving forward." "That's correct," I said carefully. "I resigned on Friday. May I ask why?" "We've been very satisfied with your work." I paused, considering my words. "I'm pursuing other opportunities that better align with my professional values." "I see." He was silent for a moment. Richard seemed quite eager to assure me that this Julian person is exceptional. Harvard Business School, Goldman Sachs pedigree, all very impressive. "I'm sure he'll serve you well," I said, the professional mask slipping back into place automatically. "The thing is, Penelope, we don't work with firms. We work with people we trust. For the past 3 years, that person has been you." My heart rate picked up. "I appreciate that, Mr. Sterling. Where are you going next?" "I haven't decided yet. I'm exploring options." Another pause. "Would one of those options include starting your own firm?" The question caught me off guard. I hadn't considered that specifically. "Perhaps you should, because if you did, Sterling Enterprises would be interested in becoming your first client." My mind raced. "That's very generous, but there are regulatory requirements, infrastructure needs." "All solvable problems with the right backing," he interrupted. "Penelope, I've been in business for 30 years. I know talent when I see it. More importantly, I know integrity. You've demonstrated both. The rest is just details." By the end of the call, my kitchen table was covered in notes. Martin Sterling hadn't just offered to become a client. He'd offered to connect me with investors who could help me establish my own wealth management firm. He believed in me more than I believed in myself. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked harder than I ever had at Blackwood, but the difference was palpable. This was work with purpose, building something of my own. I met with regulatory experts, consulted with attorneys, developed a business plan, and secured initial funding. I named the firm Frost Advisors. Simple, professional, and mine. I was in the middle of reviewing office space options when Lauren called. "You will not believe what's happening here," she said without preamble. "Try me." "It's chaos." Richard introduced Julian to the Sterling account last week, and it was a disaster. Julian kept talking about his Harvard connections and his fresh approach, and Martin Sterling just sat there looking unimpressed. They pulled their account yesterday. My heart skipped. Martin hadn't mentioned this. "But that's not even the big news," Lauren continued. "After Sterling left, 4 other major clients called to say they're terminating their relationships with Blackwood. Word is getting around that you're starting your own firm, and people are waiting to jump ship." I sat down hard. "How many clients are we talking about?" "As of this morning, 27, and counting." By the end of the week, the number had risen to 43. Richard finally called me directly, his tone oscillating between threatening and pleading. "Whatever you're telling our clients, it has to stop," he said. "This is bordering on tortious interference." "I haven't reached out to a single Blackwood client," I replied truthfully. "They're calling me. We will sue you into oblivion if you take our client base." "They're not your clients, Richard. They're people who chose to work with Blackwood and can choose to work with someone else. That's business, not personal." I threw his own words back at him. After 60 days, Frost Advisors officially launched with a modest office in Midtown, a staff of 6 carefully selected professionals, and, most importantly, 102 former Blackwood clients representing over $600 million in assets under management. Richard's threats of legal action never materialized, likely because he knew he had no case. I hadn't solicited his clients. They had sought me out after experiencing the difference between my approach and Blackwood's assembly line treatment. By the 3-month mark, the number had grown to 189 clients. By 6 months, 267. By the end of the first year, 312 former Blackwood clients had moved their accounts to Frost Advisors. Exactly 312, the same number I had personally managed during my time there. Martin Sterling became not just a client but a mentor, helping me navigate the challenges of scaling a business without sacrificing the personal touch that had become our hallmark. We instituted strict policies. No one worked more than 50 hours a week, everyone took their vacation time, and client loads were managed to ensure quality service without burnout. Our tagline, "Wealth Management with Integrity," wasn't just marketing, it was a philosophy. The invitation arrived on heavy cream stationery, embossed with the Blackwood Financial Services logo, celebrating 15 years of excellence, a gala at the Plaza Hotel. I ran my fingers over the raised lettering, smiling at the handwritten note at the bottom. "We'd be honored to have you attend. Richard." 2 years had passed since I'd walked out of Blackwood. 2 years of building something I was genuinely proud of. Frost Advisors now employed 28 people and managed over $1.8 billion in assets. We'd been featured in the Wall Street Journal as one of the fastest-growing independent wealth management firms in the country. Lauren had joined me 6 months after I left, bringing her tax expertise and 15 more clients with her. Thomas followed 3 months later. Even Rebecca, who'd had the panic attack in the bathroom, was now our operations director, thriving in an environment that valued her health as much as her output. I hadn't spoken to Richard since that last threatening phone call. His invitation was surprising, though I suspected it had more to do with appearances than reconciliation. Blackwood had lost significant market share after the client exodus. Having the competition visibly present at their celebration would signal confidence. I decided to go. The plaza was decked out in Blackwood's signature colors, navy and silver. Well-dressed attendees mingled under crystal chandeliers, the financial elite of New York sipping champagne and exchanging business cards. I spotted Richard immediately, holding court near the center of the room, looking essentially the same. Expensive suit, perfect tan, practiced smile. He saw me almost as soon as I entered. his expression flickering briefly before settling into a welcoming grin. He excused himself from his group and made his way toward me. "Penelope Frost," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." I shook it firmly. "Congratulations on 15 years, Richard. And congratulations to you on your success. Frost Advisors has made quite a splash." "Thank you." An awkward silence stretched between us. 2 years of unspoken history filling the space. "How's Julian working out?" I couldn't resist asking. Richard's smile tightened. "Julian decided to return to Goldman last year. The transition was challenging after so many client departures. 312 to be exact," I said, the number etched in my memory. He nodded, acknowledging the direct hit. "You built something impressive there. We underestimated your impact." Coming from Richard, this was as close to an apology as I would ever get. "You taught me a lot," I said, and meant it. "About what to do, and what not to do." "Fair enough." He glanced around the room. "We've made some changes since you left. Implemented a mentorship program. Adjusted our work expectations. Because it was the right thing to do, or because you kept losing talent?" He laughed, more genuine this time. "Both, if I'm honest. This industry is changing. The old ways don't work like they used to." A waiter appeared with champagne flutes. We each took one. "To adaptation," Richard offered, raising his glass. "To knowing your worth," I countered. We clinked glasses, a truce of sorts. As I mingled throughout the evening, I was approached by several Blackwood partners who had once barely acknowledged my existence. Now they treated me as a peer, asking about my business model and growth strategy. Success had made me visible in a way that hard work never had. Near the end of the night, I found myself on the terrace, taking a moment away from the noise. Lauren joined me, resplendent in a burgundy gown. "Quite the full circle moment," she said, nodding toward the ballroom where Richard was giving a speech. "From undervalued employee to respected competitor in 2 years. Sometimes I still can't believe it," I admitted. "That day I walked out, I was terrified. But you did it anyway. That's what counts." I thought about the journey, the late nights building my business plan, the meetings with skeptical investors, the leap of faith that my clients' loyalty to me would translate to my new venture. The relief of creating a workplace where people could succeed without sacrificing their souls. "You know what I realized?" I said, watching the city lights shimmer around us. "Richard did me a favor that day. If he'd offered me partnership, I would have taken it. I would have become part of the system that was crushing me." Lauren nodded. "Some prisons have really nice bars." "Exactly. I needed him to show me exactly who he was, who they all were, so I could find the courage to leave." Inside, Richard was wrapping up his speech about Blackwood's legacy and future vision. The crowd applauded politely. "Do you ever miss it?" Lauren asked. "The prestige of being associated with an established name?" I thought about my team at Frost Advisors, about my clients who had followed me on faith, about my sister's baby, now a toddler, whom I saw regularly, about weekends spent actually living instead of working, about purpose and meaning beyond the next quarter's numbers. "Not for a second," I said, and I meant it. As I left the plaza that night, I felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for what I'd built, but for what I'd left behind. Sometimes the most significant success comes disguised as failure. Sometimes a door needs to be slammed in your face before you find the courage to build your own house. Richard had laughed when I quit. He wasn't laughing anymore, and neither was I. I was too busy thriving.